Okay, so I hope everyone had a really good eat break. I spent mine grading your scripts basically, so I'm still not done, but I will be by the next class, so you guys can expect your script returned in the next class. In the next class, I think you're also supposed to submit your assignment, the one with the play. I'll put up the Turnitin link in the in the Facebook group. I'm sorry it's not up yet. It's the library. I'm basically still setting up my Turnitin account. As soon as I have it, I'll share it with all of you. So no worries. If I'm late, it's nothing on you guys. Then you guys get an extra bit of time. So I guess it's a win-win. Midterm, after the midterm, we really start picking things up. So, what basically happens is that today we're going to be talking about our other assessment thing. So, you guys have your midterms, you have your assignment, you have the other big one, which is basically this, right? The alternative assessment, the performance, the play that you're putting on. We're gonna discuss it in more detail in the next class, of course. Online classes, it's very difficult to make concrete decisions in classes like this. But I just wanted to give you guys the overview today so you have some time to really think about it and discuss things amongst yourselves, right? So there's the alternative assessment and performance thing. So first of all, you're performing Oedipus Rex, not Dr. Faustus like we talked about. The reason I changed this is that seemingly I don't think most of you like Oedipus, right? Sorry, most of you like Dr. Faustus, and Dr. Faustus is a bit more difficult. So I think Oedipus is fine. You can perform Oedipus, and it's basically the performance is going to take place on 10th May 2025 on Saturday. It's in this room. This is one of those lecture theaters. I'm not sure which one, but 9E20P, it should be right next door to our classroom. So I don't think anyone will have trouble finding it. So the performance happens in 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., but we have the room from 8 a.m. onwards. So basically, you have to. Guys, give me a second. I think the doorbell ring. Just 1 second. Okay, never mind. Uh, as I was saying, there's the we have the performance from 10 a.m. onwards, so 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Ideally, the performance happens within an hour, but system loss, people will take a little bit of time getting settled in, and there's the time that the MC has to speak, and the time between that changes between the two sections, right? So let's assume it's going to take 2 hours. We have the room from 8 a.m. onwards, so stage people can set up, and if you guys have time, we can do a quick rehearsal maybe. So your section 4, you're performing the second half of the play. You're doing from when Creon leaves to the end of the play. You have to finish within 30 minutes. You can take a little less, a little bit more if you want, but once again, both halves should take 1 hour altogether, right? So once again, for those of us who just joined, we're talking about the play you guys have to put on, performance. You're performing Oedipus. It's on the 10th of next month. So you have a little over a month to prepare. And this is the room number. This is you're performing from where Creon leaves to the end of the play. So you're going to be your 45 people, I think, maybe 44. I think two people maybe dropped later on, but my papers say 45, so let's assume 45. So yeah, you guys are going to be divided in 6 groups. So let me just explain what each group are doing. Uh, I think writers are the first group, one of the more important groups. All of them are important, but writers put the thing together, right? So, like I said, you have to finish your part within 30 minutes. Now, 30 minutes is a long time, but it's still difficult to fit all of Oedipus's last half into that. So, what you have to do, the writers have to do, is basically make the play shorter. You should also modernize the language so the audience can understand what's going on. It's a bit difficult. The language is a bit difficult, as most of you have pointed out. And you should also make the language easier to memorize, right, in smaller chunks, because actors are going to have to memorize these lines and they're going to have to say it. So you should also make the lines a little bit easier to memorize. You should also have to adapt the chorus. And I personally think this is one of the more challenging tasks that you guys have to do. So, the chorus in a Greek tragedy is way more, what should I say? It's more complicated, it's more complex, and a lot of people are speaking a lot of long lines, and you're not going to have that many people to play and chorus. So, I want you guys to be creative about it, right? I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do. You're going to come up with it yourself. I'm going to give you guys more play examples, videos of plays in the group. And you guys already went to see plays, and I'm sure you've seen way more plays and you have more experience with film and whatnot. Look at those, take inspiration, and adapt the chorus in an interesting way. That's like your task. You obviously have to work with the actors, the costume, and the set design to make sure everything makes sense. Work with the actors to make sure that they are getting the dialogue right. You should work with costumes. So, if you want to set your play somewhere else other than Athens, then, you know, Athens, people say Korean, uh, Corinth or whatever. Basic Thebes. Oh my god, I am a mess today. Excuse me, guys. So work with the actors, the costumes, and the set design, and make sure everything fits. It should have 5 to 7 members. I would suggest people who got an 8 or up in the first quiz basically join this group. You guys are going to have a very critical role that really makes or breaks the play. So I would suggest that if you're academically minded or you think you really understand the play, you join the writers group. Of course, that does not mean I don't need to judge you guys by grades, right? Like exams. Sometimes you just have a bad day, sometimes you didn't get to prepare or whatever. So if you still want to be a part of the writers, I'm not going to stop you, but really think about it. Really think about if you want to work with this play or not, and then choose to join. Now, everyone gets an option to join every group. I'm going to share a Google Sheets, maybe a Google Docs. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to share a link to put in your name for a group tentatively. I get final say, so we're going to do a bit of an audition. I might pull up a example of your work from your assignments or maybe one of your quizzes to just basically look and see if you fit the role. So yeah, you can think of becoming a writer if you want to work with the language. Then of course we have actors. Actors are basically the face of the play, right? I don't need to explain what actors do, but you guys are playing Oedipus, so you need about 3 or 4 actors to play the main roles. So the second half, the roles are you have Jocasta, Oedipus, of course. Creon shows up later. There's the shepherd and the stranger. I'm not sure if the leader or the priest or whoever makes an appearance. So you need about 5 people. So I think I should say amended 5 actors. But 5 actors to play the main roles, and you should have a few actors, 3 or 4, to play the chorus. And what you do with the chorus again is up to you and the actors. You obviously have to work with the writers to make sure the dialogue fits you. You have to memorize the dialogue, of course, and you should be able to improvise if you forget. Things happen, right? We can't always remember every single word. So if you can't remember a word, you should be able to improvise and come up with something on the spot that your teammates, the other actors, can also work. Please remember that. So I will also probably ask the actors in the next class to recite a few lines for us, just a short, a very short audition. Actors should not be shy, so you don't have to really I don't know, you don't have to memorize the lines just yet. Just prepare a few lines and be ready to basically read them out. Yeah, this team should have 7 to 8 or maybe even 9, 10 members, depending on what you guys. So there's of course the costume, music, and the stage team. You guys basically make up the body of this play. So again, self-explanatory, costume, music. So there's going to be some costumes and makeup necessary for the actors. I don't know if you guys want to make the masks. If you want, you can make the masks or just go for regular costumes with makeup and whatnot. And prepare those and help the actors put on those makeup and costumes on the day. It's really recommended that you guys don't buy anything. I'm sorry, but we don't really have a budget for this production, so I won't be able to reimburse you for any money you spend. So I'm counting on you guys to be creative, right? Just use whatever you already have. Maybe, you don't necessarily need to be wearing togas or whatever it was the Greeks wore. You can improvise, right? Use sharis or Punjabis or whatever you think of and make up the costumes yourself. So you also have to use an appropriate background music. We don't want the stage to be absolutely quiet and no background music or whatnot. Um, and the stage. So unfortunately, since we don't have a proper drama stage, we are going to be relying on the projector, right, to give a sense of the background, give a sense of the location, the setting. So in select some kind of appropriate background. If you want to change it, if you want to add weather or whatnot to it, use those. And you have to be ready to work with the IT department on the day off, right? So to make sure everything goes smoothly. Like make sure how you are going to change the music out depending on the scenes or whatnot. So if you guys need any props, also, you know, you have to make those. So, you know, you know what I mean. I am going to say a lot of yous today. It's a really awkward thing to take class online. It is what it is. Anyway, also 7 or 8 people in this group. Next, we have the voice of the play, aka the PR and audience management. So Brack University is a really big place, and we have a lot of events going on at random times. So we need to put the word out there, right? That this is happening. So this group is in charge of promoting the play. You're our marketing department, basically. You promote the play on social media and around the campus. You might have to make some posters for it, maybe some social media posts. One rule I am adding is that you cannot use AI image generation, mostly
Ma'am,
because it cannot be credited. Yes?
could you please like hold the mic to your মানে closer to you আপনার হুট হুট করে হালকা হয়ে যাচ্ছে বুঝতে পারছি না।
Oh, I think it's the earphones. It's moving around. Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay, ঠিক আছে. So, okay, PR, audience management. So, the rule I was talking about, right? No AI image generation because of the issue with crediting. We want to credit everyone for their work properly, and AI basically takes quote unquote inspiration from other artists to generate images, and we can't really properly credit anyone. So we're not going to be using AI images. You can use art from Google if you want. There are a lot of classical paintings of Oedipus if you want to use one of them, but you have to credit the artist properly. I really encourage that one of you draw or like take photos of your rehearsals, props, costumes, whatever you guys want, and use one of those for your posters and social media posts. But even when we do that, please do properly credit the person who drew the picture or who took the photos or whatever, right? Proper credit at every level. That's something we want to maintain. So you also have to make a playbill. And do you guys remember what a playbill is? You should have seen one at the performances you guys are supposed to go for to
Yes,
for an
ma'am.
SNF. Yeah, it's basically a leaflet, right? which really explains the plot of the play and shows you, list the cast and crew, right? Who did what,
Yes.
who's playing who, etc., etc. Yeah. So I want you to make a playbill. You don't have to print it out and spread it among the audience. We don't have the budget for that, like I said. Just make one and submit it to me on the day of the performance. Just a digital copy, right? If you want to make it a PDF, JPG image, whatever, it's fine. There's also going to be a level of crowd management necessary on the day of the assignment, and the PR group are going to be in charge of this. So I expect you guys to be dressed formally and basically direct the audience members to the seat, maybe escort the faculties if anyone is attending. We're going to extend an invitation to the register, of course. I don't know if he will attend, but if he does, uh, you know, lead him to his seat, explain what's going on to them, etc. There's also going to be an MC or a master of ceremonies who needs to introduce the play to everyone, introduce the cast, let everyone know that the play is starting and also that the play is ending. Thank everyone at the end. And yeah, one person from the PR management and audience management team should also be there. So you're going to be 7 or 8 people in total, and your job is to make sure we have people we are performing for. If no one shows up, I'm blaming the PR group. So, of course, there's the report writers group. This is the last group who also have a lot of power. So every other group is flexible. There can be as many people or as few people as we want, but for report writers, we need 6 people. So 5 of them will be assigned to one of the 5 other groups, and one person will be compiling the 5 other reports into one, and that person will submit it. So you're each going to be assigned to one group, and your job is to facilitate conversations and communication between each. Like the actors have to talk to our writers a lot. The costume team absolutely has to talk to the actors to make sure the costume and the makeup or whatever fits, right? And um, the report writers also help with that because they should be added to every group and they should be looking at this. They also have to write a report at the end. You can submit it a week later than the week after the assignment, the performance, basically. You basically do the crediting, right? We said we want to maintain credit at every level of writing, at every level of this. So take note of who did what, explain the decisions you guys made. Like maybe you explain the decisions you guys made, explain your thought process, etc., etc. And you also have to take pictures and videos on the day of the performance. So the actors definitely will want the play filmed. They will want some photos of all the hard work that they did, and the report writers are going to be taking those pictures on the day. So that's basically it. You guys have a few groups, and I want you guys to talk amongst yourselves and basically think who wants to do what. Like I said, I'm going to put up a document today so you can put up a tentative idea of where you want to join. Again, I get last call, so next class we're going to do a sort of audition. Actors prepare to recite a few lines. Writers, I'll look at your writing samples, and a costume PR report writers, I can't really check your quality of work, but you should be able to do the work, right? Like creative people, please go into costumes and music and whatnot because they need you to make sure that the play looks fantastic. Artists should probably consider going into PR so you can make a playbill that has some pretty pictures, maybe make some lovely posters and whatnot. See where your talents will be best used and go there. Everyone should be able to do the PR and the report writing thing in Brack University. We want you all to have these skills, and the other groups are also opportunities for creatives, for people to really show your interests, right? So yeah, talk about it, and we can then finalize it in the next class. I will repeat what to do, all of this again, because online class, I know a lot of people are not here. But you should really take this time to really think about where you want to be, which team you want to join, and yeah, decide on. You have a little over a month, like I said, on the 10th, and you don't, if we have to move the date because there might be a chuti that day, I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'll let you know. So prepare that you have to perform in 10 on the 10th of May. Any questions? Yes, Nusaiba.
Ma'am, for the costume, is there like a specific design we have to follow? Because like, can I take creative liberties on the pieces?
Of course, you can take creative liberties. We want you to take creative liberties. Be as creative as you can be. It doesn't have to be accurate at all. The essence should be there. Please make sure you know that we talked about what these plays are really about, right? As long as you preserve that essence somehow, it's fine. You can go in whatever creative direction you want, as creative as possible. You can, we encourage that kind of free thinking, let's say. Oh, I should also mention that the mm, mark distribution, right? So it's 15 marks. That's a lot of marks. So 5 marks will be overall. So basically, the whole thing, everyone gets the same grade out of 5. That's the overall performance. 5 is basically about your particular group's performance. So let's say you're in the PR group and the actors mess up. That's not going to affect you. The PR group is going to be created separately, as are the actors, writers, reporters, etc., etc. But 5 mark is based on your group performance. The other 5 is more flexible, I guess. The other 5 is I'm going to be asking the audience members what they thought, and you get a little bit of marks from there, and a little bit of marks comes from your participation. So basically, the report writers will be crediting everyone. We will know what everyone is doing, and we want everyone to really particularly contribute, right? Just because this is a group thing doesn't mean someone can just do nothing and get by. Or what if someone is really creating issues? Right, sometimes that happens, that this one person never shows up to rehearsals, this person is dragging everyone else down, and I want the reporters and also you guys to take note of that, if and you are going to be graded a little bit based on that, based on your participation, based on the effort you guys put
Ma'am,
in.
c- could you please
Yes,
repeat the mark distribution word?
I'm going to repeat it again in next class anyway, but the basics is that 5 marks is for the whole thing altogether, the whole production. 5 marks is for your group's performance in particular. Examples are like, the writers won't take the blame for PR's mistakes, or PR won't take the blame for actors' mistakes, etc. The next 5 marks is more flexible. Hopefully, everyone gets a 5 out of 5 there. It's based on what the audience thought, and also based on, participation. So, in case there is someone who's freeloading, who's basically not doing any work at all, or is creating problems for everyone else, that person has the scope to lose a few marks there. Am I clear? Any more questions? Okay, no worries. If you have questions or if you come up with questions later, we're going to finalize everything in the next class. So, we're going to discuss it a little bit more then. So one thing that my other class brought up, I think you guys should also know because it might affect you as well. The other class was wondering if they could do it in Bangla. Now, I couldn't tell them yes or no just yet. I do have to talk to the department. While this course is called Introduction to Drama, BRAC University is an English medium university, so there might be some issues there. But I said if everyone in that class agreed that they might do it, then I will talk to the department authorities and basically try to let them do that in Bangla. You guys might want to consider if they're doing it in Bangla, if you guys will also want to. But again, you don't have to. Their decisions do not affect you at all. So yeah. You guys can consider it or not. I think it's better to keep it in English because it means there's less work for you, right? The writers won't have to translate everything and then, like, shorten the dialogues. It's easier to do it in English, but since they're doing it, I thought you guys should know. Since they're considering it, actually, I don't know for sure if they are doing
Ma'am,
it.
would that doing it in Bangla, would that affect our grades?
If they do it in Bangla or if you guys do it in Bangla.
If we do it in Bangla,
No, I don't think either will affect your grades. I want you guys to be as creative as possible. And I feel like doing it in Bangla does give you guys more of an opportunity to really play around. But it's not necessary at all. It won't affect your grades. You can do it in English or Bangla, whatever is easier for most people, right? So, yeah, talk amongst yourselves. I'm sure you guys have a group chat by now. Talk amongst each other and decide together, right? Let me know in the next class what you guys. So that's pretty much it. If anyone has any questions, go ahead. If not, we're going to move on to the lesson, right? We're going to move on to Midsummer Night's Dream.
ma'am, so the process execution should go in this manner. Like first the writer will think of and they're gonna write a script. Based on that, the characters will be decided, and based on that, the costume will be decided, right?
I mean, it doesn't have to follow a sequence like that. The writers do have to be the first ones to finish their work, of course, because actors can't really rehearse and start practicing until that. But I think costume can work with writers earlier and basically start working on costumes even before the writers
Keep
are fully done,
that's
or
enough.
the writers can send it like section by section. Like if they're done with one scene, they can send it off and then they can start working on the next one. It's really up to you. You guys decide. You guys talk amongst yourself and do it however suits you best.
But if the cast is not like costume before size এর বর্ণের কথা যদি চিন্তা করি তাহলে তো হেডব্যান্ডের হচ্ছে সাইজ ম্যাটার করে।
Yeah, cast আমরা next class decide করে ফেলবো. Next class, like I said, I will take a small audition and we will finalize the actors basically in the next class. Because yeah, casting does matter. Casting এর উপর basis করে costumes হবে, etc., etc. And I do want the actors to have a little bit of a say on like what the writers do, right? Because the actor has to deliver that line. So if it's really long and they're having a hard time memorizing it, if it's really difficult to pronounce, then maybe they should be able to have time to give that feedback to the writers. So we're going to decide the cast, who plays who in the next class, and we're also going to decide all the other things. I hope that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then. Just a note to everyone, I am not going to call your names in class, but I will take a screenshot at the end to give attendance basically. So please make sure your name is the official name that's also on my attendance list, okay? It's all right. You don't need to, write your IDs or whatever, but if your name is not the same as the one in the attendance list, please write down your name in the chat. But other than that, I think it's fine. Okay, so let's move on to the lesson. So in your syllabus, we have the first comedy and also one of the more longer and more difficult plays to study. It's A Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare. It's one of Shakespeare's more popular plays, of course. There's a Mickey Mouse version of it actually. The first time I saw this play was on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or whatever, and they did an adaptation. So it's one of Shakespeare's more popular play, and it's the first proper comedy that we study. So let's just get into it, right? So this bald fellow over here is William Shakespeare. I'm sure he needs no introduction. Everyone who studied or even like approached English literature to any extent will have kind of come across him. He's referred to as the bard himself. the Bard of Avon or whatever, because he's had such an incredible impact on English literature and in the English language in general. So Shakespeare invented almost hundreds and thousands of words. I don't think, okay, thousands might be pushing it a little bit, but hundreds of English words. The one I remember most clearly is lonely. Apparently, before Shakespeare, nobody ever said lonely. He came up with so many expressions and manners of speech that we say that the speech, love is blind is a rephrasing of Shakespeare. Foul play, fair play, it comes from Shakespeare. And I don't know, there's so many. He really impacted the English language. And when you read Shakespeare, basically, you'll find that his language is very musical, very lyrical, almost very melodic. There's a bit of a melody to it. And Shakespeare's contribution is in his language. The plots that he talks about, they're great, they are amazing. But he also takes inspiration from other people. Romeo and Juliet, for example, is a retelling of Pyramus and Thisbe, and Romeo and Juliet was first written in French, and then Shakespeare read that and was inspired by it. He takes inspiration from history and whatnot. But yeah, what makes Shakespeare's version the best, the best is in quote unquote at least, but the ones that are the most impactful is because of what he does with the language. Each one of the soliloquies in Shakespeare could be a poem on its own. And his language is so poetic that it's really important to read his work as poetry. If you've done English 113, Introduction to Poetry, you will have studied Shakespeare's sonnets, and he brings that poetic quality to language even into his, and it really shapes the way we think about Shakespeare. So another thing about Shakespeare is that mm, he's a bit difficult to understand because of this language. He uses so many metaphors, so many similes, so many poetic language. He never says anything straight out, right? It can be a bit frustrating sometimes. But these metaphors are something that make his work more universal, let's say, because you can say sad, or you can say the feeling that comes to you when you see something beautiful break, because it not might just not be sadness, it might be different things, and different people might take that in different ways. I think it was Harold Bloom, a famous critic, a Shakespearean critic, who said that William Shakespeare's writing contains every emotion the Western mind is capable of coming up with. Now, I don't know. I'm not. I don't have a Western mind, but someone like Harold Bloom saying something must be. We should take that seriously. We must have something great about it. So let's talk about the bard himself a little bit more. He was born in 23rd April 1564. He was baptized the same month as Marlowe. We know that at the same month as Christopher Marlowe. There's also he died on his birthday, sadly, in 1616. He was born and raised in Stratford upon Avon, so this is probably why he's called the Bard of Avon. Don't mind the spelling being different. There were different spelling conventions back then. It was basically the Wild West. Everybody spelled words in whatever way they wanted. So he was here. He was raised in Stratford upon Avon in Warwickshire. His father, John Shakespeare, was actually a glove maker. He was a merchant, basically. He was from the working class. He was a commoner, a peasant, even. His mother, Mary Arden, was from a landed family, a gentry. She was part of the nobility, though at the very lower ranks of it, so low that she could marry someone who was not landed and basically marry down. So she was also became a part of the peasant class. And for the peasant class, it's really shocking that Shakespeare would have the mastery of language that he did. He went to a Latin grammar school. So, grammar schools were a result of the Protestantism kind of taking a hold on England. So, Protestants believe, if you guys remember, that everyone should have access to the Word of God. So, everyone should have access to Latin because even at that point, the Bible was in Latin. So, grammar schools basically taught Latin scriptures and basics of maths, basics of a lot of different studies, as ordered by the crown to peasant boys. So it was something that everyone could access. He was very much a commoner. He did not have access to the tutors or the high kind of education that even Marlowe had as someone who went to college. So Shakespeare comes from this very ordinary background. He got married to this lovely woman called Anne Hathaway, though we do not know a lot about her. Anne Hathaway, when he was 18, we don't know her age. They had three children together: Susanna, Hamnet, and Judith. Hamnet, the name you guys might recognize because Hamnet was probably the inspiration behind the character of Hamlet, Shakespeare's most famous or the most highly praised of his work. So Shakespeare's most famous works is definitely Romeo and Juliet. I hope all of you know about Romeo and Juliet. There's Hamlet, like we just said. There's Macbeth. He wrote a lot of plays based on history. So Richard the Fourth, Richard the Fifth, the Richard the Sixth. There's Cleopatra and Antonio. Antonio? Antony. And there's As You Like It, there's Play It As It Lays, The Merchant of Venice. That's something I believe it's in the curriculum in the NCTP Bangla medium background curriculum. He wrote so many plays, but not until later in his life, after his 30s. Before that, he was an actor. We don't know exactly when Shakespeare left Warwickshire for London, but he did, evidently, and he was an actor first. And it really shows in his writing. He really focuses on the actor's experience. So, in his plays, he really encouraged the actors to interact with the audience. So, if you guys remember what the Elizabethan era stage looked like, right? It was a stage in the middle of the room, surrounded by peasants, while the nobility looked up from the balconies from far away. And the peasants, they're very rowdy, they're very much hecklers. They really have a lot of comments and they're talking and they are addressing the actors and whatnot. Shakespeare's plays basically had the actor talk back. So actors were encouraged to improvise, and Shakespeare might or might not really include that kind of take that into the play later on. So yeah, the script of it was subject to change. It was something that was very dynamic. The first folio, this is as you can see from the date, was edited and collected by two of Shakespeare's fellow actor friends after his death, and they basically compiled what we know as the definitive editions of Shakespeare's plays. So the very dynamic plays became more static, more condensed, we should say, after Shakespeare died. In the introduction, in the prologue to the first folio, Ben Jonson, one of Shakespeare's rivals in fact, called Shakespeare not of an age but for all time. And this is where we get the Shakespeare is the best writer of all time, quote unquote, allegations. Even. I don't know if Shakespeare is the best writer of all time. I sincerely doubt that. But he is one of the most influential. Like we already discussed, English language as we know it today has been shaped by Shakespeare. He contributed words, he contributed expressions, he contributed spellings. The way Shakespeare spelled words is something that we later on carried forward when we were standardizing the English language. And his writing really gives us a lot of archetypes that every other writer after him followed. He cast this huge shadow, and we have to admit, though Shakespeare's quality might be debated from different, but it's a matter of taste, really. Different people will find it different, obviously. But Shakespeare's influence is like no other. Shakespeare is like no other. I know Shakespeare is a little bit more difficult than what you guys are used to, and I don't know, some of you are probably as more sophisticated than I was at your age. But at your age, when I first did Shakespeare, I did not like him at all. But afterwards, when I finished with my degree, I revisited Shakespeare basically, and I absolutely fell in love. It's his language. It makes him more difficult to understand, but it's also so incredibly beautiful that it really changes your world. It really changes the way you think about things. So I don't know if you will have as much fun as I did with Midsummer Night's Dream, but if you don't, I would really encourage to come back here. Come back and read this play when you're a little bit older, maybe in a few years when you have read more books, when you have read more works of literature. And I think it will really be fun. But even without that, A Midsummer Night's Dream is one of the funniest plays you will ever read. It has a lot of elements of slapstick, basically. As you can see from the picture, I hope. I don't know if it's too zoomed out or whatnot. We see the fairy queen, the queen of fairies, kind of draped all over a donkey, an ass. This play has elements that are quite ridiculous, frankly. That makes it very, very so, as a result, it is one of Shakespeare's most popular and widely performed plays. Romeo and Juliet is like the movie darling, right? There's so many movie adaptations of Romeo and Juliet, from really faithful ones to Buzz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet. I don't know if you have seen that one. I would recommend you do. It has Leonardo DiCaprio and it's hilarious. Uh, there's also like Ram Leela, like the Bollywood version of Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet has been made into film so often, but Midsummer Night's Dream is the one that is a darling for the theater scene. It's performed very widely and it really lets the actors basically show off. It's a comedy, like I mentioned before, it's the first pure comedy that we have studied in this course. A lot of you wrote in your scripts that Dr. Faustus was a tragicomedy. It's not exactly correct because tragicomedies are actually very rare. We call Dr. Faustus a tragedy with comic elements, or comedic elements, to amend myself. And Midsummer Night's Dream, in contrast, has no tragic elements, though that is sort of debatable, in my opinion. So it is a comedy and it exists to make you laugh. What are the traits of a comedy? So comedies have are allowed to have lots of subplots, though this is not necessarily true of modern tragedies. Modern tragedies are also allowed to have a lot of subplots. Comedies have a happy ending. I think this is the definitive thing about comedies. And they exist and they deal with lighter topics. A Midsummer Night's Dream is basically an exploration of romantic love and the fool it makes out of all of us. And it's written in both the verse and prose and uses the iambic pentameter in some places, and in some places it does not. So, what do I mean by the iambic pentameter? I don't know if any of you have done poetry. If you did, good job. You already know what this is. Iambic pentameter is basically a unit of poetry. It is something that measures rhythm. It's something that measures rhyme. So it's the most common metrical foot. A foot is basically a unit of a syllable. So iambs are one unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. It's a bit difficult for me to explain iambs to you. You can clearly see I do not have a good English accent. And in Bangla, we tend to pronounce words a little bit more flatly. So if you're used to Bangla, it's a little bit difficult to grasp that I am, but you don't have to memorize that. You just need to notice and see that it's there. So words like above, above, right? We are putting all the emphasis on the second half. Attempt. At is very soft, while tempt has a lot of consonants that really get stuck in your mouth. In love, in is softer. It's something we almost say in a breath, while love takes a little bit more pronunciation. See? So it's unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stress, unstressed, stress. And that's how the I am goes. Now, penta means five. Meter is basically the unit. So an iambic pentameter means there are five sets of iambs in a line. So the line will have 10 syllables total. I hope I don't have to explain what syllables are to you, but you know the basics. There's going to be 10 syllables, and all of them are going to be in the iamb. Unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. So this style is first of all most natural to English. Like I said, above, attempt, love. It's something that is really built into the English language in general. But Shakespeare really plays with this. When you have that, because this style kind of mimics the heartbeat, it's really difficult without any visuals. But if you use your hand on your chest, you can kind of mimic the iamb. It goes da dum da dum da dum da dum, basically the heartbeat rhythm. It makes these sentences so melodic. It makes the sentence feel smooth and it's just nicer to hear something. If you don't know about the iamb or the pentameters and meters and rhythms in general, you wouldn't exactly know why it sounds so nice, why it flows so smooth. But it's very deliberate. Shakespeare designed his lines to be beautiful to hear, beautiful to say. It should really roll off the tongue. So, Midsummer Night's Dream, one of the most important speeches, the most important soliloquies, have is written in diametric pentameter. I know a bank where the wild thyme blows. Now, I can't really give you this line the way an actor would, but a professional actor would really set it to the iamb and make it sound really, really, really beautiful. So the next thing that I also mentioned was verse and prose. So what are these? Verse is very easy. It's just lines that have a meter and it rhymes. Blank verse, if you remember, Dr. Foster's was set in blank verse. I didn't really explain what a blank verse is, but Dr. Foster's was written in blank verse, and Christopher Marlowe, in fact, was the person who really popularized the blank verse usage in plays. So blank verse just mean it follows a meter, but it does not necessarily always rhyme. And but there's still that poet. And prose is just regular speech, the kind of language we use in more modern art forms, like in movies and novels and short stories and everyday speech. We speak in prose. It's language that doesn't really follow a meter, it doesn't really follow a pattern. It also does not usually rhyme. It might rhyme by mistake here and there, but it does not need to rhyme. So in Midsummer Night's Dream, you will notice that the nobles, basically the Athenian nobles, we have Theseus, Hippolyta, Hermia, Lysander, Demetrius, and Helena, who always speak in verse or blank verse. We also have the peasants, the rude mechanicals, they're called. Nick Bottom and his friends, who are very minor characters, who usually speak in prose. Their words sound so clumsy in comparison, right? See, the class thing, as we have also seen in Dr. Faustus, that these Elizabethan plays are not very charitable towards the peasants, are they? They are the peasants and the commoners in these plays are arrogant, clumsy, foolish. They think they know better than they really don't. They're fools, basically. So it's a very subtle way when the peasants are speaking in prose. The peasants are not, they give this impression that the nobles are words have more weight because they are thought out so well. It flows so well. It sounds so lyrical, while the peasants are speaking in clumsy language in comparison. It gives off this sense of class. But Shakespeare also uses this convention, this language convention, to also play with this. So this play has a play within a play. I didn't mention, but A Midsummer Night's Dream is also kind of making fun of Romeo and Juliet. It's written in 1595 or 1596. We also think Romeo and Juliet was probably written somewhere between 1585 to 1595. So Shakespeare was probably writing these two simultaneously, or at least had both these plays in his mind. So in this play, the play within the play is Pyramus and Thisbe, the story that inspired Romeo and Juliet. He may In Pyramus and Thisbe we have the same basic structure. So there are two lovers whose families are have a fight over something petty. These two don't care. They meet. They fall in love. They plan to meet. The girl finds the guy. The guy thinks the girl has died when she hasn't, mistakenly. He hastily kills himself. The girl finds her boyfriend dead and then kills herself. He basically takes this notion, his the plot of his other play, and pokes fun at it. But it's on stage. A play within a play is always interesting because it's somehow the playwright, the writer, is really commenting on the medium that he used. Shakespeare has used this play within a play to make fun of actors, make fun of playwrights, make fun of audiences. But he also connects this to the forest. This play takes place in a forest for the most of its duration, and in the forest we see societal conventions go out the window. Women are not demure and shy. They're the ones who are pursuing men who are more demanding and pushy, and I don't know, they're the ones who are almost forcing themselves onto men. And men are also chasing women. They don't care for loyalty or chivalry or any of that. We see the fairy queen fall in love with a little donkey because of shenanigans. And every societal convention is left, reversed, just discarded, gone. And the stage is similar. In the stage, the nobles speak in prose and peasants speak in verse. We see the way Shakespeare is commenting on what a play can do. Now, remember, plays are a way of for the writer to comment on their society. Dr. Faustus, remember, it was set in Germany in a vague time. Christopher Marlowe did not really specify when the play is happening, right? Because Christopher Marlowe used Dr. Faustus to criticize people of his own time. He made fun of the nobles for being passive, who only care about surface level things. He criticized the scholars for being so ambitious. He criticized the Pope himself to be greedy. He criticized the noble to be petty, the peasants to be drunkards and greedy and foolish and whatnot. But doing that when you're setting it in your own country, in your own time, it's a bit dangerous. You might piss off the wrong people, right? The nobles might take offense, the peasants who are watching the play might get annoyed and angry and come at you with pitchforks and whatnot. So, what playwrights did to basically distance themselves from the political commentary they were making, and make no mistake, Shakespeare is making a political commentary about the Elizabethan court traditions. So, they basically set the play somewhere far away, somewhere in the past or sometimes in the future, somewhere that cannot be or should not be compared to their current setting. So, England in this case. So, Shakespeare sets A Midsummer Night's Dream in the past. He sets it in Greece, in Athens to be particular. The play takes place mostly in the woods, and then the play returns to Athens again. There are fairies and magical creatures in this play. It also makes a lot of allusions, like references, little Easter eggs to Greek mythology as well. So he avoids um, responsibility, to say. So he doesn't straight up critique his society, but he hides his critique of his society within a different setting. So the basic plot is that a pair of lovers escape into the wood. So Athenian law is very difficult, and this girl, who her father basically engaged her to a different man than the one she loves. So she runs away with her boyfriend, and her fiance follows her. Her fiance is also followed by this girl's, our main girl's best friend, who is in love with the fiance. In the forest now, the fairy king and queen are fighting over a changeling boy. Now, this fight is absolutely meaningless. We never even see this changeling boy come in on stage. He's that unimportant. But the main thing is the king, Oberon, is jealous, and the queen, Titania, is very proud. And over their envy and their pride, they're fighting, and their fight basically represents this imbalance in nature. And nature itself starts to basically rebel. There's floods when there shouldn't be, there's droughts when there should be rain. So basically, global warming is happening because these two are fighting. So the fairy king, Oberon, takes his servant Puck and orders Puck to basically get this love juice, this love potion, and he wants to use it to humiliate his wife. But Puck messes up, and the lovers, the four Athenian youths who were trying to get love marriages basically to happen, get caught up, as does the rude mechanicals. The rude mechanicals are a group of peasants who are preparing to put up a play for the duke's wedding. And the leader or the lead actor gets transformed into a donkey and roped up into these shenanigans. There's a lot of funny things happening. There's a lot of slapstick. There's a lot of wordplay. Shakespeare loves his wordplay, and Shakespeare is probably the person who invented yo mama joke. He makes a lot of sexual innuendos. He makes a lot of jokes about lies. There's a lot of puns going on, and also a lot of slapstick. People are chasing each other. People are running over each other. There's a woman who's majestic and powerful, who's in love with a donkey, and the donkey is trying to avoid the queen, and it's really funny. At the end of the play, we see everything go back to normal. Oberon lifts his magic spell, not from everyone, but for enough so all can be well. And they go back to Athens and see the play put on by the rude mechanics. But all is not well. There are really interesting gender dynamics, and very interesting, I mean, insidious gender dynamics and questions of consent that's happening within this book. But that's for another day. That's for after we have all read or seen the play. This is where I should mention I'm also going to share with you guys two versions of this play as well. So the first version is put on by National Theatre. It's very funny. It's very modernized even. They keep the language, but it's very modernized, it's very rowdy. So the crowd really interacts with the actors on stage, and you can see what an Elizabethan crowd might like about this play. It's also not that accurate. It basically switches the role of Titania and Oberon. While they do it to make it more palatable to the modern audiences, because, like I said, there are consent issues, right? It's difficult to watch a man basically take away his wife's ability to consent in a modern play and to find it funny. So they changed it to be the woman who takes away a man's ability to consent and makes it a little bit gay. So somehow this is more acceptable now. It shouldn't be, but we're going to talk about it. But this version is really interesting to watch. It has music, it has circus actors playing the fairies. So there's a lot of acrobatics, there's a lot of dancing going on. It has Gwyneth, I don't know, the lady from Game of Thrones, Brienne of Tarth, playing Titania. I would recommend you guys watch that. But I'm also going to share a second version of the play, which is by the Globe. Now, this version is recommended if you guys don't want to read the play at all, basically. It's more accurate. It says true to the story and it has all the dialogue. So you can also watch that one, but it's more boring, it's more difficult to understand, and it's even more, I don't know, I feel like you don't really grasp the play if you watch that version. But the choice is yours. You can take inspiration from both for your play. And just to quickly repeat, we will be deciding who does what. In the alternative assignment, we'll be fixing the roles. There will be some quick auditions, and we'll finalize everything in the next class. And we're also going to start getting into a Midsummer Night's Dream really story. We'll really get into the meat of it. Okay, so guys, please stay a little bit longer. I'm going to take some screenshots of who attended and whatnot for your attendance. But in the meanwhile, if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask them while I basically get your attendance thing set up. No questions? Everyone got everything I was talking about? No questions about diamb or anything? You guys followed? Okay, so I think I'll end class here. Okay? Did someone say something? Okay. So I'm going to end class here for today. So we'll meet in the next class. Meanwhile, please think about which role you would want. I'm going to give you guys that that form to fill up so you can put on the tentative thing of which group you want to be in, and I'll see you on Thursday. Okay, bye everyone.
Assalamualaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum assalam.